You are now entering Video Village.
Population Jordan, Sam, and now you.
This is new.
Yeah.
I mean, not really for us, but...
No, it's exactly the same for us.
There is a different psychosphere, I find. It's more rouge.
Okay.
I guess because the visuals are red now.
Right, okay.
But
so you're feeling rouge at the moment, are you?
That sounds a bit gay, so I won't say that. Yeah, I'm feeling very pink. So why are we called Video Village, Jord?
Oh, I didn't realise we would have to explain ourselves.
No, I'm just throwing that on you. No, I've got a little explanation.
Okay.
The reason the village elder back in the day was revered was for their wisdom, right?
Okay.
But mainly because their role was to remember for the tribe.
Okay.
And I think, to have a memory. And it's our role as Video Village elders to remember. Not just that until yesterday terrorism was bad and
Right.
and black wasn't capitalized, but that the world knew the Star Wars prequels to be rubbish.
Okay.
And so I think that's what we are for. We are the Video Village elders. Welcome to Video Village.
Okay.
More of the same, but kind of new.
Okay.
Shall we launch into it?
Yeah, coming up on today's episode.
I provide a preamble of recommendations.
And then we review A Quiet Place Day 1.
Kinds of Kindness.
Batman Cape Crusader Season 1.
Thelma.
And Longlegs.
Before we dive into any proper reviews, I actually just want to recommend a few things in a blanket way.
Okay.
I'm not going to go into any of them with any great depth, but the things that I would like to recommend that don't quite feel review worthy.
Okay.
So the first thing is a sitcom called Daddy Issues.
Right.
Starring Amy Lou Wood, with whom I'm in love, and David Morrissey, who I like.
Okay.
But just not like that.
All right.
It's kind of a run-of-the-mill sitcom, really. It's a girl who's pregnant, that then moves in with her single father, and the trials and tribulations of them living together. But it's very charming. David Morrissey in particular is very likeable, and it's a role I've never really seen him play as kind of a ineffectual, kind of dopey dad.
Okay.
That's kind of very feminine in a way.
Is this a British sitcom?
It's a British sitcom.
Okay.
6 episodes, BBC, give it a go.
Yeah.
2 comedy stand-up specials.
Okay.
Joe Rogan, Burn the Boats.
Yeah.
It's Joe Rogan.
Right.
It's good. And Stuart Lee, Basically. It's Stuart Lee.
Oh, basically.
Basically.
I see. Okay.
Yeah, like David Lee.
Right.
Inside joke there. The Boys Season 4.
Yeah, I'm currently working my way through this.
Yeah.
I'm sort of about a third of the way through the 3rd season.
Okay.
now.
And how are you finding it?
Yeah, I think I don't know why I didn't start watching it when it started. I'm wondering if it was just like superhero fatigue.
Well, that's definitely a factor. Also,
yeah.
they're long.
They're long episodes. Yeah,
Yeah.
they're an hour or so each.
Yeah.
And this was, I mean, I think it started the same year Endgame came out, right?
2019, yeah.
Yeah, so I just thought like, oh, more superhero things.
Yeah. And
Like-
also
like
more-
even superhero satire was starting
Yeah,
to feel
even
a bit-
irreverent superhero
Yeah.
stuff was kind of... And, it doesn't break the mold, I don't think. Anything that tries to be outrageous really manages to outrage me. But it is decent, and the second season's very good.
Second season's very good. I like the start of the 3rd season.
Yeah.
It feels like the show's properly hit its stride.
I just don't really remember as much about the 3rd season. I remember 2 being very much a breakout.
Yeah.
And 4 is good. There are problems with 4.
Yeah.
A lot of fans have turned against it. I think a lot of it is Erin Moriarty, I think is her name.
Okay.
The Starlight, who's had facial surgery.
Right.
And just looks, she's kind of ruined herself to some extent.
Okay.
I don't want to be like that bloke, she used to be hot. But it does seem completely unnecessary for a young, attractive 20-something woman.
Yeah.
But anyway, so a lot of fans have turned against it for that, and that's created a culture war, because everything does. Everything's part of the culture war. Oasis is part of the culture war. But it's a decent show. And even if it's not a full-fledged recommendation, it's still decent.
Yeah, I mean, considering how... And I'm not speaking to season 4 here, because I haven't got that far yet. I'm speaking more to, like, the first half, I suppose. Considering how, like, scummy and pulpy it is, it's got, like, decent storytelling chops.
No, it does, yeah.
There's like a moment at the beginning of the 3rd season where, like, for the first 2 seasons, one of the characters is constantly trying to get back to, like, his wife and kids.
Yes.
And then at the beginning of the 3rd season, you see him at his daughter's birthday party. And they him, his wife, and his daughter, they kind of like get together so that a photo can be taken.
Yeah.
And then this guy that you've never met before is invited over by his wife, I think, to come and take the photo.
Mm-hmm.
And then the character that we've been following up until this point, he kind of goes, "Oh, I'll step away." So he steps out of the photo as this guy we've never met and his wife kiss.
Mm-hmm.
And he's kind of looking forlornly at them. Forlornly. And without a word of dialogue, you get that, like, oh, they've divorced.
Right.
He wants her back, but she doesn't. Like, all of this stuff is
wordless storytelling. Yeah.
And there's just, like, neat little things in there where it's like, oh, considering this is a show about superheroes, like, going inside people's dicks and, like, people exploding in the bloodiest, goriest fashion possible.
Yeah.
And really weird, fucked up sex stuff. It's nice that there's also, like, good storytelling behind that as well.
Yeah, and Anthony Starr's performance is the highlight of the show.
Oh, yeah, Homeland's great. Yeah.
Yeah, he's kind of the breakout, isn't
he? Yeah, it's worth it almost just for him.
Yeah, no, he's very good.
Yeah.
He's very good. And finally, House of the Dragon Season 2.
Yeah, haven't watched
it. You haven't watched it. You might, we'll see, who knows what's going to happen with that.
No, I'm not.
Yeah, you're not going to watch that either?
No, you're not going to make me.
Oh, okay.
I've been told if you're not going to watch Game of Thrones, there's no point really watching House of the Dragon.
Well, A, that's fallacious, and B, you are going to watch Game of Thrones. But anyway,
it's not
let's just leave it there and say House of the Dragon Season 2 is pretty good.
Okay.
Let's go into our first review.
Let's do it.
A Quiet Place Day 1. It's very post 9/11, isn't it?
Okay, yes. Well, I mean, it was set in New York City, obviously.
That's the biggest thing.
Disaster in New York City. It's interesting you say that, actually. Like, it's very post 9/11, because was it just me that got, like, Cloverfield vibes from it?
No, they're definitely Cloverfield vibes.
Yeah.
Cloverfield, very reminiscent, because that also traffics in that aesthetic.
Yeah.
So, and the other thing that sprang to mind was Children of Men. You know, explosions, dust clouds, faces plastered with sawdust.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of definitely evocative of the images on the street after 9/11.
Absolutely.
Which obviously Cloverfield, the main thing, probably when they're hiding in the store as the dust cloud.
Yeah.
Which is literally cell phone or
taken directly
camcorder footage. Taken from 9/11. And also there's a creepy journey through the pitch black subways in this, which Cloverfield also has. Lupita Nyong'o is a very good actress. It's just, I think, just a pleasure to watch her on screen, really.
Okay.
I think she's very good. Do you feel the same way?
Yeah, there's something about her face and her aura, isn't there, where you're almost compelled. And I don't know whether it's just the roles that she's been given. Because I don't remember her. She was in Black Panther, right?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah. I don't really remember her in Black Panther, but obviously, like, there are certain images from Us which are just, like, burned into my memory.
Yeah. Well, that's one of the great modern performances.
Yeah.
Her in Us.
Yeah.
Her in Us.
And there's also, like, other very good performances she's done
12
as well.
Slave, obviously.
Yeah, but so also, I don't know if she's just been lucky with what she's been cast in, or whether she is indeed.
Luck's probably half the battle.
You could put her in it, because, like, I mean, this is kind of like it's not quite a modern blockbuster.
No.
It's more. It's not Independence Day. It's more Cloverfield or War for the Planet of the Apes.
It's smaller. It's a classier mainstream blockbuster kind of thing.
Yeah.
Well, it's directed by Michael Sarnowski, who did Peg.
Oh, right, okay.
So it's kind of, if you imagine what he would do with a mainstream film.
All of, like, the macro events of the apocalypse.
Yeah.
Because A Quiet Place, I haven't seen the second one. I watched the first one again recently, and it was actually, like, worth going back to. Because, like, it's surprising how quick it goes by. Like, we were hitting certain plot beats, and I was going, wow, already? Okay, well, I didn't realise we were this far into the film. But yeah, I mean, that's a world it's set in, like, a post-apocalyptic world where what's left of humanity live these isolated, silent lives because aliens that hunt via sound have invaded. And this film is a prequel which takes place during that apocalypse.
Yeah, during the invasion.
Yeah. But all of the macro events of that apocalypse, like the military campaign against the aliens, that's happening either in the background or off screen.
Yes.
It's a more focused, personal story.
Again, like Cloverfield.
Like Cloverfield, just on, like, this one character and her emotional support cat.
Yes.
And then eventually Joseph Quinn.
Who was a surprise to me.
Yeah?
I liked him in this.
Okay.
I think I've only really seen him in Stranger Things, and I find him annoying in that.
Right.
But that's probably Stranger Things.
Okay.
He's the villain in one of the villains in the new Gladiator.
I was going to say, he's getting this big push at the moment, isn't he? Because new villain in Gladiators, Fantastic Four, and he was in something else recently too.
He's one of the new people of Hollywood. Yeah. But I thought he was good. It begins with a nifty bit of text. So it kind of compares the decibel level of New York on an average day is the volume of a constant scream.
Yeah.
I was like, there's, like, your film, that's it in a nutshell, isn't it? I think the obvious choice in the beginning would have been to wallow in the sounds of New York, blaring horns and all that kind of thing. I like that it was actually quite restrained on that front. It doesn't do that.
Yeah, well, it's kind of this franchise's one opportunity to really play with sound, isn't it?
Yeah.
Because the films after this, they have to be very quiet by design.
We've learned,
yeah. Whereas this is, no one knows anything. No one knows these creatures are going to attack.
Yeah.
I will say they figure it out pretty quickly.
They do. Yeah, when they're in the cinema, is it?
Yeah, like she wakes up after having been knocked unconscious, and there are already people that have figured out, you have to be silent.
I can't remember. Is it they figured out you have to be silent, or is it just that we're being silent because they're around? Do you know what I mean?
It could be that.
Yeah.
I think maybe that's just because I know...
Yeah, we know that...
We know what the aliens are and how they...
Yeah, I mean, if there was anything around hunting you, you'd be quiet.
Yeah.
But we just don't know that that's very much the key.
Yes.
Yeah,
definitely.
Well, there's a pervasive misery to the whole thing, as has been established with this franchise.
Yes.
But there's also a more palpable doom than before.
Okay.
I don't think there's any sense that Lupita Nyong'o will survive the film at any point.
Yeah, well, we know what her, because, broadly, their plan is obviously to escape.
Yeah.
But the big central quest of the film is she just wants a slice of pizza, right?
Well, that's the thing. For the most part, escape or long-term survival isn't even the plan.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just to get a pizza.
Yeah.
Before presumably either succumbing to cancer or getting killed by aliens.
Because, we learn that, she's dying.
Yeah.
And, she wants to go and have pizza from the specific place that she loves.
Yeah.
One last time. And
so there's kind of a fatalism in the
the fact that aliens are invaded and they're under the constant threat of death is sort of incidental to her because she's kind of under that threat already. And
that's the film saying, don't expect this character to survive.
Yeah, I guess so.
The best they can do is go out with some kind of dignity or,
But also, it's a prequel. With the exception of...
No, of course.
One guy that's in the second one, I think.
Jimon Hunsu, however that's pronounced.
It's an all-new cast.
Yeah, I don't know what's going on because there's going to be one more, a third one. Maybe Joseph Quinn will be in it because he survives the film.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know if I'm alone here, but there was also a sense of providence. So when we first meet Eric, he sees her cat, and then it leads him to Sam.
Yeah. I
got the feeling anyway, there's this understanding that destiny is at play. Basically he looks at the cat and they share a look.
Okay.
And then the cat seems to lead him, rabbit-like in Alice in Wonderland to... So I don't know, it was a little moment. It might just have been that's strange, there's a cat looking at me. I'll follow the cat because that's a person. It must be with that cat. But I don't know, there's just a sense of those two are meant to meet.
I don't know, because I think with animals in cinema in general, there sometimes is
an understanding they have.
Yeah. That animal is a character. And a lot of the time, films do treat it as a character.
Yeah.
So I don't know if that's just... They wanted to characterize the cat beyond
Maybe,
it's
but
just
I feel
a cat.
The film didn't otherwise really do anything like that, did it? It was just being a cat. But then there's that one bit where it locks eyes with Joseph Quinn. It's follow me. I don't know. Maybe it was just me, but it felt like this little pocket of intervention almost. I guess not that a cat would do anything angelic.
No, of course not. But I guess that's the only reason I would question it is because. Yeah, the cat doesn't really display that kind of behaviour.
I'm willing to concede that I may have just read that into it.
Yeah. But I know what you mean. Yeah, it does kind of feel like there is something to that moment.
Yes, exactly.
Because he's just wandering aimlessly and he's kind of shell-shocked, isn't he, from what's happened.
And we don't really we know nothing about who the guy is.
Yeah. And then there is just this moment where he's kind of looking at a cat and clearly, something's happening in his head.
Some psychic transference.
Yeah, we don't know what.
Yeah.
But then after that, it's just a stupid cat.
It's just a cat. Yeah. And of course, these films are characterized by near constant panic. But it's rare to see someone having a little bit of a panic attack, which was nice. There's been more of that in cinema lately.
Yeah.
But never, that's rarely in the cases where you would expect one. It's in Puss in Boots, right? He has the panic attack, it's fine. You don't expect it in an animation, they're kind of doing something different.
Yeah.
But in this, when they're going through the pitch black subway and they have to be quiet and the creatures are milling around them.
Yeah.
You might well have a panic attack in the middle of that situation.
Yeah, and it's nice because it's a realistic, in terms of as a filmmaker, when you're choreographing a scene like that, you have to insert a little bit of threat.
Yes.
And the only way you can do that with these creatures is to make sound.
Yeah.
So you have to find a realistic way a character would make sound in a situation where they're desperately trying not to.
Exactly.
And a panic attack makes perfect sense.
Or giving birth, in the first one.
Giving birth, exactly.
Yeah, and it's befitting of the circumstances. I'd probably have a panic attack too.
Yeah.
It doesn't overstay its welcome, which is also a rarity.
Yeah.
It was filmed in London.
Oh, interesting.
Which is particularly impressive because it really does feel like New York.
It does.
And not, you know, that touristy kind of New York where, they've put like a matte painting of the Statue of Liberty in the background. Yeah. Like, no, it feels like an insider's view of New York.
Do we even see the Statue of Liberty in this film?
I don't think you see any landmark. I could be wrong. There's a big kind of aerial POV in the beginning.
Yeah.
And that's it, I think.
Yeah, but that immediately follows up that text you were on about.
Yeah.
So just seeing the city as you hear the noise of the city makes sense.
Makes sense, yeah. And you see everything. It's not like there's a collage of the Chrysler building and It's well paced, it's well made, but it lacks the purity of the first film.
It definitely does, yeah. It's not as good as the first film. I can't speak to whether it's an improvement or a step down from the second.
I enjoyed it more than the second, but on a technical level, they're probably about the same.
Okay.
I don't know if it brings much to the table in terms of the franchise. It's a larger scale, yes, and you get a panoramic apprehension of all the creatures, like skittering over the buildings. Like, you never see this invasion and they're fucking everywhere. Like, you see one or two at a time, in these claustrophobic scenarios.
Yeah, well, yeah, I think they're kind of, in a way, they're sort of like xenomorphs, aren't they? Where the fewer of them there are, the more effective they are. Yeah.
And, compared to the relative quaintness of the other two, as well as the fact that they're ground level. The first two, I mean. This mostly is two, but you are afforded that bird's eye view.
Yeah.
Like I said, like in the military helicopter sort of thing, which you never get in the first two. It's very personal.
Yeah.
It's pretty much how you would envision the invasion beginning. It doesn't put anything into a different context, really, or deepen the mythology.
Yeah.
The first film is very good. The second is solid, and this is solid. I don't know how much mileage there is in this series. The next, like I said, is supposed to be the last. And while it's kind of already stretching a point, I'm okay with ending things there. Because while there's a repetition to the franchise, it's not troublesome or wearisome to me. I don't have a problem with this franchise.
Yeah.
I think they're decent films, and it's not like, just stop it already. Okay, yeah, do one more if you want.
Yeah, they're not very versatile monsters, I don't think.
No.
Take Predator, for example. The Predator franchise before Prey.
Yeah.
Predators were always kind of in the same kind of environment and situation. Mm-hmm. They were always hunting people in forests and that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And then Prey, it put it in like Native American times. Completely changed. Like, I don't love that film.
No, yeah, but that's like, why haven't we done that before?
Yeah, but it was almost inspired in a way, because it's like, like, when it comes to a Predator film, it's not the Predator you change, it's the people it faces.
But also, like, the Star Wars is a long time ago. It's like futuristic alien race could be around in Native American.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah. And it's more of a threat to a Native American because they have fewer tools.
Yeah, exactly.
At their disposal, and they have to like go a different way about fighting it.
Right.
Whereas if the next A Quiet Place, I know it can't because we've now seen the invasion, but theoretically, if it was set during Native American times, the way you combat that creature would be exactly the same. Yes,
and also they're not very visually memorable. Like,
they're kind of like, that kind of like Day After Tomorrow, The Tomorrow War, that kind of generic-ish like alien design where it's like...
Day After Tomorrow?
Not Day After Tomorrow, The Tomorrow War.
Right, okay.
Yeah, well...
no, that is either.
That's like, there was like a Chris Pratt...
The Chris Pratt thing, okay.
Netflix,
you saw that, did you?
Yeah.
Yeah, never saw that. They're kind of just vague, generic alien, kind of inspired by xenomorphs a bit maybe, but also like spidery and kind of... Yeah,
kind of Demi-Gorgon.
Stranger Things. Yeah, absolutely. It's a great concept, but the look of them is not memorable.
Because that's not what's scary about them.
No, and that's fine. Yeah. But also, you could do both, Yeah,
that'd be nice. Yeah.
That's all I got, really, for A Quiet Place.
Yeah, like, it's not like a firm recommendation from me. I agree with everything you said.
Yeah.
But I've seen it now.
No, same.
Yeah.
I would recommend people watch it, but you probably won't go back.
No.
But it's a good film.
Yeah. Well, I think you can go back to the first one, as I did.
Yeah, I've gone back to the first one a few times. I've never gone back to the second one.
Yeah.
I won't go back to this one. I think because the thing of the first film is the family aspect of it.
Well, that's what's interesting as well, because even though this is a much bigger film in scale, despite the fact it's a more personal story, it's a smaller cast.
Yeah, there's basically two of them.
Yeah.
But it's about their burgeoning friendship. But there's something special about the first one, with John Krasinski as the dad, and we like John Krasinski, we like Emily Blunt.
Yeah.
And they lose a child, so that incredibly kind of personal trauma sort of thing.
And even the kids have kind of got their own little story going on as well. There's more, again, ironically, there's more going on in the first one.
It's, I wouldn't say definitely conceived as a one-off thing. Like The Matrix, I'll go to my grave thinking that they always said it was intended as a trilogy.
Yeah.
I'll go to my grave thinking, no, it was intended as one film that then was really successful, and now it's not even a trilogy anymore. A Quiet Place, I could believe that that's a one-off film that then did well, so it got this franchise. But then again, the first one does end on a kind of cliffhanger, so it's kind of hard to.
It's a cliffhanger, but kind of like resolves itself.
That implies, they figured out how to beat them. That's the end.
Yeah,
because they figure out the sonic kind of frequency or whatever it is.
Yeah. You can kind of overpower their senses, and that opens up the armor. So
I suppose that's similar to the Matrix as well, where like the war is not resolved, but
he's the one now.
He's the one. Like, what can they possibly do?
Yeah,
and then we get Reloaded, Revolutions.
Yes, exactly.
Was it Resurrection? Is that what it was called? But okay, anything more?
No. Yeah, we kind of covered everything we need to.
Okay. Kinds of kindness.
Right, I will watch this, I think, at one point. But this review is on you, because...
That's fine.
What is it, like a 10-hour film?
Basically.
Yeah.
It felt like a 20-hour film.
Felt like a 20-hour film.
Okay, so all Yorgos Lanthimos, the director, all of his films have a dose of weirdness. Sometimes quirky gilding, a la The Favourite. Sometimes all-out assaults, a la Dogtooth.
Okay.
The Favourite wasn't written by Lanthimos and his writing partner. I think it's pronounced Efthimis Philippou. So that explains that.
F the police.
Efthimis.
Oh, the Efthimis.
Yeah, how dare you imply that I said that. The Favourite is also his best film, so make of that what you will. Poor Things and the Lobster had some commercial appeal and were of a quality to enter the award circuit. Everything else has been a much bigger ask of audiences, I would say.
Okay.
Kinds of Kindness, which you might have guessed is a cynical, ironic title.
Of course.
Is essentially 3 short films, so they've called it a triptych of fables, that may or may not be connected or whatever.
Okay. Right.
It's always nice to have a dash of the strange in cinema, but this just wasn't for me.
Okay.
The key word here is indulgent, or if you're feeling a bit snazzy, obscurantist. It has Lanthimos' off-kilter European sense of humour, with that deliberately matter-of-fact, stilted, almost inhuman delivery. So The Lobster kind of pals in that a lot, but you know what I'm talking about, right?
Yeah, there's a lot of that in
Poor Things, right?
In Poor Things.
Yeah.
She grabbed my hairy business. Is that kind of thing?
Or just like, and then we went into the woods and we fucked vigorously against a tree.
Yeah.
Like, it has no emotion in it when it should,
Okay.
Some of it is funny in that way. There was some passing curiosity about what was going on, and there are some interesting ideas, but I found I just didn't much care in the end.
Right.
By the third story, I tapped out.
Is it a Beau is Afraid situation where it gets you in the beginning, but it loses you as time goes on?
No,
because of its
this never really got me at all.
Okay.
Beau is Afraid, the first 40 minutes.
Yeah.
Are really good.
Yeah, they're fantastic.
Yeah, and so it really is a letdown. This I was never let down by it because it never lifted me up.
Okay.
I don't think the film means much at all, and it becomes a real drag. Kinds of Kindness is about people will make sacrifices for the people they love, and we expect you to stick around for almost 3 hours for that point to be reinforced again and again. And you can say that way of looking at it is unfair because a lot of films can be boiled down to a boilerplate sentence or two. But there's not much else on offer. There are some funny moments, some decent performances, but it's a very, very minor work. A passion project, not to say that much passion bleeds through the screen. It's the kind of film you're allowed to make when you've had a couple of hits, relatively speaking. And this is another good dinosaur to Poor Things' Inside Out.
Okay.
And we had plenty of issues with Poor Things.
We did.
For such a deliberately obtuse film, the songs they use tell you everything you need to know. At the end of the first story, Margaret Qualley literally just sits down and plays How Deep Is Your Love on the piano.
Right.
Singing it as well. The opening song to the film is Sweet Dreams Are Made of This. So you take that, those lyrics, some of them want to use you, some of them want to be used by you, some of them want to abuse you, some of them want to be abused. Everybody's looking for something. That'll do you.
Okay.
No need to see the film now. You could break that into a triplet and apply one to each story, but really, it all goes back to people can be weird and obsessive and do mad shit for each other in the context of a job, a relationship, and faith, respectively. That's the film. None of these stories were fertile enough to be feature-length, and there wasn't enough content for a miniseries, so I think the advice would have been just to not bother, frankly.
Right, okay.
It's not horrible. I don't have much contempt for it. It's well made enough. It just felt so pointless, especially at such a demanding runtime.
Yeah.
Emma Stone has clearly become Lanthimos' muse, and she obviously has an affection for him. I wouldn't be surprised if they were fucking.
Oh, really?
Well, she's married. So that I'm just saying, I wouldn't be surprised.
Okay.
If you see the way she's talked about their collaboration when winning awards, and I know actors are like that, but still. And she's put a lot out there for him, literally.
Yes.
There's some more sex stuff in this.
Okay.
With her, and I feel like she's been on that kick of late. Although she's beyond actual college age, this feels like the college era of her career, where she's experimenting and choosing quote-unquote interesting projects.
Yeah, okay, yeah.
So, like, between her work with Lanthimos and then you got The Curse and Maniac on TV and an upcoming film with Ari Aster, she's been zeroing in on indie weird.
Yeah.
Results have varied. Incidentally, the big marketing thing for this film has been the scene of her dancing. Have you seen that?
I haven't.
By the car? Oh, you haven't seen it? Okay. If you're on social media, it's everywhere.
Okay. Another weird scene of Emma Stone. Dancing.
Yeah. That's the very end of the film. The credits play over that dance.
Okay.
Literally. It's almost like another cynical joke. Like, we promised you this Mad Capri, and that's the ending.
Right.
Jesse Plemons does something different enough that I appreciated. I've always liked Jesse Plemons, and he has a definite screen presence, but I never quite got the among the best actors of his generation thing.
Oh, is that
yes.
something people have proclaimed about
Absolutely.
him? Oh, interesting.
Yeah,
okay.
yeah. This doesn't convince me either, but he is good. And seeing Willem Dafoe in this after Poor Things made me think of how many directors for whom he's become a member of the troupe. So if you go back a bit, there's Abel Ferrara and Paul Schrader, but in recent years you've got Wes Anderson, Lars von Trier, Julian Schnabel, Robert Eggers. He just has one of those faces, doesn't he?
Yeah.
You want to get him back. There was a time when I was reading a bunch of American short stories, like John Cheever, Raymond Carver, all that. And in a sense, this does feel of a piece with them. Not to say that this feels particularly American. It's a bit like... You haven't seen Paris, Texas, have you?
No, I haven't.
No, but it's a bit like Wim Wenders and Paris, Texas, so like an outsider's view of America.
Okay.
But its sun-bleached aesthetic is kind of what I picture when I read a lot of those short stories. And a lot of paperback covers second that. The kind of paperbacks one might buy in an airport. Have you seen A Bigger Splash, the David Hockney painting?
Yes, yeah.
Yeah, we looked at it the other day, didn't we?
We did, yeah.
The vibe of that painting is like breezy 60s poolside Long Beach, California.
Yeah.
Thomas Pynchon is in the same neighborhood. Surfers, beach bums, dopey minds, ambling narratives, an overhanging sense of something going on or probably not. So John from Cincinnati from David Milch too.
Okay.
Going off on a tangent there, but it's just a mood genre that interests me a lot.
Is that what this is trying to do?
That's what I got from it.
Okay.
Yeah, we're somewhat in that zone here, but it's a very weak expression of it. And that's my final word on the subject.
Right, okay. So it doesn't sound like it's a recommendation.
It's not a recommendation.
Okay.
I don't think anyone will get anything out of it, really. I think cineasts have really laboured to extract meaning from it.
Yeah.
But I really don't think... He has outright said the first story is meaningless.
Oh,
but
right, okay.
You could take that as like a Lars von Trier style double bluff where it's the most meaningful, you know.
Okay.
He's European.
Yeah, well, yes. I mean, that's his first mistake, isn't
it?
Well, yeah, what's your kind of opinion of Lanthimos at the moment? Because I know that, like, around the time of The Favourite, we'd had The Favourite, we'd had The Lobster, I think we had Killing of the Sacred Deer as well.
Yeah.
Generally positive, I think, towards Lanthimos, you were?
I really like The Favourite.
Yeah.
I quite like Killing of a Sacred Deer. I quite like The Lobster.
Yeah. Now that he's kind of brought out... Poor Things was like a big disappointment. I think we both recognised the quality of it, but we just couldn't get on board with it.
Yes.
And now this sounds like it was not a pleasant experience for you.
No, like I said, it wasn't horrible. It wasn't a deeply unpleasant experience, but it feels like the kind of film you're allowed to make if you've had like an awards hit.
It was for him, yeah.
And I find, it was for him. It was the interiors thing for Woody Allen. That's Annie Hall.
Okay.
They're like, okay, you want to do a black and white drama? Let him. Or like in Nolan's case, Inception.
Yes.
You made us all this money for The Dark Knight. You know, you do whatever you want. I think Kermo talked about it once. He said it's one of, not with Inception, maybe Interiors, one of the few occasions where a studio allowed a director to make a film because it might be good for the director to do it. And this doesn't quite feel like that, but it's definitely like if you make two films in 1 year, both aren't going to be doozies.
Yeah.
And this is very much the indulgent, like, okay, I'm going back to my European roots, where it's kind of difficult and provocative and much less mainstream. So I think it's kind of a shame it's come hot on the heels of Poor Things, because Emma Stone won the Oscar for it.
Yeah.
This clip circulating of her doing the dance now and saying, oh my god, second Oscar in the bag. That's not going to happen.
No.
Yeah, so maybe they were hoping to lure people in that way, but...
Well, that's what's interesting about Poor Things, is it did seem to break through to the mainstream because of its award buzz, and I'm assuming because of Emma...
It's feminist message as well.
It's feminist message. But it's, by popular standards, by mainstream standards, it's an incredibly weird film.
Absolutely.
And a lot of people probably haven't been exposed to that level of weirdness before on the scale in which Poor Things
Yes, but it's kind of, it's easier weirdness in the sense that people would be put off by its aesthetic. It's an odd-looking film,
Yeah.
right? It's an odd film across the board, but it has a really conventional narrative, actually. I think we kind of boiled it down when we reviewed it. Very straightforward narrative, but it has a distinct, cinematography and production design to it. This is a lot more normal looking, but it's far weirder.
Does he do I think he kind of started doing this in The Favourite. Does he have those like big fisheye lens
I don't think he does.
Wow, okay.
I don't think he does. This is a lot more conventional in its presentation, but a lot stranger on the level of theme and narrative.
Okay.
So I think people who are going and thinking, oh, this will be easier, not at all.
Right.
Because at least with Poor Things, you can follow the story.
Yeah.
This is just three things about, like, people are odd, aren't they? Like I said, it's not without there are moments, but not for me. Very much in the school of pretentious, indulgent cinema. Don't pretend that there's more going on than there actually is.
Okay.
And I wouldn't really recommend it to anyone, but that doesn't mean that it's a 0-star write-off. It's just not that good.
Okay.
That's all I got. Batman Caped Crusader, Season 1.
Yes. We did it. We got Sam to watch an animated thing.
I watched loads of animated things.
Yeah.
I don't watch anime things.
No, I wasn't even talking about anime.
X-Men 97, thank you.
That's not anime.
It's animated.
Oh, I see. You're naming the only other animated thing you saw this year, isn't it?
I've seen other Futurama.
Yeah, but you gave up on Futurama.
Yeah, but I've given up on a lot of things.
Yeah, I'm not saying Futurama wasn't worth giving up on. I'm just making a point. Yeah, Batman Caped Crusader. It's an animated Batman procedural set in the 1930s.
Yeah.
That's the plot. Really, isn't it?
Yes. And I think we'll come back to the 1930s thing.
Yeah.
But this is very much in the vein of X-Men 97, isn't it? As in, and presumably the upcoming Your Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man, a resurgence of 90s superhero animations made in the original style.
Yeah, well, I mean, X-Men 97, it is literally a
direct continuation
of the show.
Yeah, this is a new project, but it's the same guy that was behind Batman the Animated Series.
But I think I saw an article saying that he was approached by Warner Brothers to make the next season of Batman the Animated Series, and he just said no.
Right.
So I've done it. I don't need to go back to that project. He said, I'll do something for you in the spirit of it, but I'm not going back to Batman the Animated Series, which is why we've got this.
Okay, all right. Well, I haven't seen Batman the Animated Series.
It's a lot of people celebrate it.
Yeah, I know that, but I can't imagine there's a world of difference between the two projects.
I don't know, because I don't know if it's aimed more towards kids, Batman the Animated Series.
Yeah,
I think it's one of those shows like Avatar: The Last Airbender or Adventure Time, where people watched it as kids.
Yes.
And now they've gone back to it when they're older.
Or SpongeBob, yeah.
Or SpongeBob. Well, not even SpongeBob. I mean, I picked those two examples because they're both shows that I think can be enjoyed by an older audience.
Is SpongeBob not in that camp?
It's different with SpongeBob, though. Because, like, Avatar, from what I understand, has, like, a very, very tight narrative and a very well-built world.
Right.
That a lot of shows that you'd think would be for more mature audiences just don't have.
Okay.
And so it's a rewarding experience to go back to that when you're older and you can appreciate good storytelling and stuff like that. And with Batman the Animated Series, I think that it was like, it's not so immature and childish that an older audience member can enjoy it.
Yeah.
Whereas with SpongeBob, its immaturity is kind of part of its appeal.
Okay, I get what you're saying.
Yeah, even if some of those episodes are quite out there in terms of the type of humor they're exercising. Whereas Batman Caped Crusader, I don't feel like it's marketed towards kids, is it? It's not inappropriate for kids, but I wouldn't call this a kid's show.
Nor would I.
Yeah.
No, but I mean, culture is such these days.
I know.
There's a boundary, isn't there?
Yeah, but
boundaries are blurred.
I don't think a kid would get nothing out of this.
No, but adults might get more out of it.
Yeah, I think it's a show that they put it on Amazon and they just kind of thought, well, anyone could watch it.
Yeah. Well, Batman is one of the few characters I don't particularly tire of in this panoply of ubiquity that is modern media. But I don't know how necessary this show is.
It's funny, actually, because I think one of the points that we made during our Batman 2022 review was this film feels very business as usual. Which is weird considering that film is supposed to be like the second year that he's been Batman.
Yeah.
And this is very early in Batman's career as well, isn't it, right?
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not sure when exactly.
Yeah, it's not an origin story.
It's not an origin story,
close to the beginning.
but he's not yet friends with Jim Gordon.
There's no Joker.
There's no joke. There's a lot of like Batman staples that just haven't occurred yet in this continuity.
Yeah, well, this is kind of what I was talking about. So we've got, the Matt Reeves Batman.
Yeah. At
some point soon we'll have Batman in the James Gunn universe.
As he said, that's happening.
No, but it's inevitable, isn't it?
Maybe, I don't know.
I can't imagine that not being the case. Not to mention the Joaquin Phoenix stuff. A fresh approach is needed. So, like, in my mind, we've had the definitive Batman origin story. The Batman Begins.
Yeah.
I know that's like almost 20 years ago now, but still. Reeves sensibly stayed away from doing that.
Yeah.
We've had the definitive Joker story, however much is insisted otherwise.
Yes.
With The Dark Knight.
I was going to say, not Joker.
No, not Joker, with The Dark Knight. I think this is the 1940s.
Oh, right.
Yeah,
okay.
This goes back to the 1940s, which is close in conception to my own Batman idea. But really, it's timeless in that Gotham way. Well, so when you said the plot is it's 1930s, it is and it's not. It is in the all Batman properties have that kind of Chicago, all the hoodlums, like, hey, mister, what you doing here? You know, hey, he's a schmuck, get him. You know, they all, even in Nolan's grounded universe, they kind of talk like that.
They did, but this is literally doing that. It is literally
it is.
Like oldie time Batman.
It is, but also it's just Gotham, right?
Well, that's what's interesting about it is the setting. It felt so natural. I think because, as you say, Batman is that kind of timeless character that came from that era.
Yeah.
And so every Batman adaptation since then, regardless of how goofy or serious they are, they're still kind of dripping in that kind of era.
Yeah.
The sensibilities of that era. And
well, it's kind of like, literally DC's Detective Comics.
Yeah.
So it's like out of those 1920 serials, detective serials.
Yeah, exactly.
Gumshoe kind of stuff.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, this is set during that time. And it fits so naturally that I stopped noticing it at some point. Like at some point, it just felt like, oh, this is a story about Batman. It's not like a period piece.
I don't think I ever thought of it as a period piece. I think I probably had to read that it was set in the 1940s. Because to me, it's set in Gotham.
Yeah.
In that kind of timeless way.
Yeah.
Like it could be now, and that's what Gotham is like. Because it's not a real place.
Yeah.
No.
I think the cars are like the biggest giveaway, really, that it's set in during a certain era. Because I think there's even at one point where he's talking to Alfred remotely at one point, and it's like, oh, he's got like a speaker set up in his car or something.
Right,
They've kind of tried to integrate it with all the technology. It's like, oh, well, I guess if this was a modern Batman, he would just use like a phone.
Yeah.
But other than that, but they've still managed to like do that using the technology of that era.
Yes.
So it doesn't, it's not like Prey, again, to use that example, where the fact that it's set in the 1700s or whenever it is completely changes the story and the way that the character is interacting with the Predator. Yeah, this is just a Batman story, but it just so happens to be set during an era that fits Batman quite comfortably.
Yes.
Yeah.
But it's not doing anything striking, is it?
It is and it isn't.
Okay.
Because... yeah, like I said, it's a Batman serial. So with the exception of like the last couple of episodes, which focus more on Two-Face and his kind of transition, because we start with Harvey Dent as Harvey Dent.
Yeah.
Then we end up with Harvey Dent as Two-Face. Which is interesting because I think they've made him like deliberately unlikable in the first half of the series.
Right.
So when they start doing his tragic fall to Two-Face, it didn't have as much power as The Dark Knight had.
Yes,
because
where he really is the savior.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And it's such a well-built, considering that he's not even like the main villain of that film.
No. It's his film though.
It's his, it's a weird one, The Dark Knight. It's like, there's nothing about that doesn't work.
It is much more, but it's much more Gordon and Dent's film than Batman. Batman has his own arc.
Yeah.
But really, that he is the most static in that film of the three in the franchise.
Yes.
It's really Dent and Gordon's just inability to like wrestle with the corruption and just the chaos, But this is a serial. So like every episode, there's a new villain that he has to fight. And some of them are more grounded, like Penguin and Harley. And then some of them are a little bit more fantastical, like Clayface and the Gentleman Ghost, I think was one. Okay, yeah.
Yeah, and some of those villains, they put like a unique spin on them. So the Penguin is gender swapped. That was like the big thing that everyone kind of heard about when the show started. Is it's a female penguin now, but it's the Penguin.
Yeah.
It's literally just a penguin, but it's a woman. Henguin. Yeah. It's the Henguin. Harley Quinn is not Margot Robbie, crazy, punky, poppy Harley Quinn. She's psychologically breaking down people. Like the fact that she's a psychologist seems to play more into her villain persona.
Yeah, sure. A bit like Scarecrow.
Yeah. So there are a couple of villains like that where they're like putting a unique spin on them. And I did appreciate that.
fine.
But because a lot of these villains are confined to a single episode, and they're only like 20-minute episodes anyway, there's not a lot they can do with them, so I don't think any of them made like a lasting impression.
Yes. Well, the design of it is brutally stark, isn't it?
Yeah.
Which pushes the writing and the vocal performances to the forefront. And I don't think they're anything special, really.
Yeah. I mean, I was excited to like that Hamish Linklater.
Yeah, but
he's just Batman.
It's because we like him in Midnight Mass. Yeah, it's just like anything he does. But
no, he's all right in Manhunt.
No, I'm not saying it's the only thing he's good in. But I'm saying like that's what makes us excited is because of his performance in Midnight Mass.
Yeah,
but of course it's a vocal Batman performance. There's not much range there.
Yeah, and this show is maybe like 80% Batman, 20% Bruce Wayne. So he's not Bruce Wayne often.
No, I finished it out of obligation.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I didn't hate it. It just didn't do anything for me.
Okay.
And I probably won't be returning for season 2.
Interesting.
Not because I got my fill of it. It just wasn't for me at all. But not in a mayonnaise, beetroot, pickle way.
Okay.
In a white rice way.
Right, okay.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, okay.
So I suppose I could keep having this. I don't hate it, but like it's not really doing anything for me. It's not filling me up.
Yeah.
But I would have no problem kind of recommending it as a podcast.
Okay. Interesting. Because I didn't think it was like I thought it was fine. Like I said, it didn't make like a lasting impression. Mm-hmm. I don't know how much of that is just binge fatigue because it came out all in one go, so I watched it basically in one go.
Same.
I think part of the problem is that they're 20-minute episodes. Most of the villains only show up for a single episode, and even then they're not in half the episode. I think Clayface is in like 5 minutes of his episode, maybe.
I think the bias going in that should be a bias on a cultural level is there's a lot of Batman stuff, so you better stand out.
And there is that as well.
Yeah,
because it's this, like I said, it's the same problem as 2022 Batman, where it knows that we know what Batman is, so it didn't bother to set up Batman.
Yeah.
So that first episode felt like episode 3 or 4,
right?
Where. Like, I could start watching it now, but I didn't need to see, like, Batman's parents getting killed.
Yeah.
I didn't need to see him don the suit for the first time. And there is, like, he does have, like, a little character arc where, at the beginning, he's treating Alfred very much like a butler and an employee. And then over the course of the show, you kind of start treating him with more respect.
Yeah.
Treating him like the father figure that Alfred has become to him. But, yeah, it's just more, like, he's Batman.
Yeah, it's kind of a more mindless.
Let's just watch him be Batman.
Yeah, and my personal bias probably is that for animation, it has to kind of blow it out of the water.
Okay.
For me, that's my bias. Is I have no problem with animation, but in order to like really like it, it better be damn good.
Okay.
And this isn't that. It's just fine.
I mean, it's got a clear style to it.
Yeah, I know, but that's not enough for me.
Okay.
Well, look, all things said and done, it still has to be well written and well performed.
Yeah.
And it is adequately written and adequately performed. It is nothing special.
Is it nothing special because it's nothing special, or is it nothing special in the context of the world in which it currently exists?
I think it's nothing special, period.
Okay.
It's nothing special as an animation. And yeah, it has a different style than a lot of animations, but yeah. And it's nothing special as a Batman property.
Okay.
So yeah, like I don't think it's a bad thing, but I'm not inclined to go back at all.
Okay.
Anything more to say about that?
Well, I don't want this to sort of end as a kind of like a negatively charged review.
Right.
Because I think it is perfectly fine, and I don't want anyone who's kind of on the fence about it, I don't want to discourage them from watching it.
No, I've given my caveats, which is that those are my biases. I don't think it's special in any way, but it is perfectly fine.
Yeah. I think this is like it's an alright, it started in an okay place. I'd like season 2 to be a step up in terms of, I mean, quality, like that's a very vague thing to say, like it'll just be better next time. But I don't know, I guess kind of like, yeah, they've got the aesthetic down, they've got the vibe of the world down, they've got like a good little cast of characters that they've... Oh, and of course they tease Joker for season 2 because...
Everything always does that.
That's obligatory now, is you make a Batman thing without Joker and then you immediately tease him for the next thing. But we'll see.
I think the thing for season 2, again, it's kind of nebulous, but you got to make it vital. Yeah. Why do I have to watch this Batman thing?
Yeah. And this Joker story, again. Like this, what about this Joker is going to make it worth him being there?
Exactly. Is that it?
Yeah. Give it a go if you want to.
Yeah, sure.
You know?
Yeah, I wouldn't dissuade anyone from watching it. Thelma. I like June Squibb a lot.
What's June Squibb done?
Nebraska.
Okay.
That was kind of her breakout role, and she was like, 70 or that.
Yeah.
I mean, she's been around for a long time. She's worked with Alexander Payne. She was in About Schmidt. quite briefly.
Okay.
As Jack Nicholson's wife, who dies at the beginning of the film. And Nebraska, yeah. And then, what else? She kind of pops up in TV shows quite a lot.
Okay.
But she's very much a late bloomer. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's Richard Roundtree's, so him of Shaft and Roots.
Yeah.
It was his last film, and it's a lovely note on which to end his career, I would say. The film has a pretty optimistic view of humanity.
Yeah. It was just such a lovely, pleasant, charming film, you know?
Well, besides celebrating the vim and vigour of its older characters, we have the Gen Zer who's a bit directionless but really has a good heart.
Yeah.
The parents are tightly wound and a bit oblivious and dysfunctional, but they're decent people. Even the villains are alright, really. So we say what the plot is?
Yeah, okay. Do you want me to? Or?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. Yeah, so it stars June Squibb, 93-year-old June Squibb,
93.
as Thelma, a woman whose simple life is rocked when a phone scammer liberates her of $10,000.
Sure.
With the police unable to help and her family questioning her capacity to continue living on her own, Thelma goes on a mission to track down the scammers and recover her stolen money while evading her family and enlisting the help from the precious few people in her life that are still alive.
That plot wasn't off the cuff, was it?
Okay, I might have written something down.
That's
what?
fine.
Yeah.
That's perfectly fine. We should probably do that, actually.
Yeah, premise
We'll
the things
worm our way through the premise.
things we're actually talking about. Because
Yeah.
there is a scene, isn't there, where she's like sitting on a bench and she's like calling up people and they're just like, oh no, this person died like 10 years ago.
Yeah.
And that's the whole scene is like, yeah, she's kind of realizing that, oh yeah, I'm old.
Yeah.
But that's what I like, because like earlier in the film, when she's at home with her grandson, they're watching, I think it's Mission Impossible Fallout on her like tiny little brick of a television.
Yeah.
The kind of TV that you had like on your bedside cabinet when you were young that was like too heavy to actually sit on that cabinet.
Yeah, tiny but massive.
Tiny but massive,
Yeah.
exactly, yeah. And I think that kind of serves as partial inspiration for the mission that she ends up going on, which I think is also reflected in the kind of espionage-y soundtrack that the film has.
Yes.
That setup could have so easily, especially in like the culture that we're living in now, it could have so easily led to a film where it was just a series of Mission Impossible parody gags, where we were supposed to laugh raucously at the fact that this 93-year-old woman was failing to pull off all of these incredible feats and stunts.
Yes.
The irony, of course, being that Tom Cruise is now in his 60s, and he's pulling off all of these stunts that people a third of his age could never do.
Yeah, well...
And I'm so glad the film didn't go in that direction.
Well, for one thing, old is not what it used to be.
Yeah.
93 years old now.
Yeah.
And I don't want to be too precious about it because, like, old people being old can be funny. I'm not going to pretend it's not.
Okay.
But yeah, it's a comedy, but more in the genre of charming and sweet-natured than outright hilarious.
The film doesn't find it funny that these people are old.
No. The easy jokes suggest themselves constantly.
Yeah.
But the film never goes there.
There's a sequence set in a nursing home.
Yeah.
Where she steals a friend's mobility scooter.
Right.
And so he then steals another mobility scooter, and there's kind of like a high-speed chase almost.
Which is kind of an obvious joke. Really.
Yeah, but it's not, again, it's not like at the expense of the characters.
No, never. We like the characters.
Yeah.
It's never poking fun at them. It's poking fun at aging.
Yeah.
You know, like we lose capacity.
Yeah.
This is what happens.
And it's a plausible, for lack of a better word, action sequence.
Yeah.
That a 93-year-old person could participate in.
It reminds me of the scene in Cockneys versus Zombies.
Oh, right. Yeah, I've seen that.
Richard Briers is outside with his walking frame.
Yeah.
And there's a zombie coming and he has to outrun it. Obviously, they're basically going at the same pace.
Yes, exactly.
Stuff like that, where it's like, it's kind of an old person funny joke, but not really. It's not laughing at the elderly. It's, like we're sharing a laugh about, oh, fucking my hip's gone. It's not cheap.
No.
Thelma's not cheap.
No.
It does get some mileage out of the incongruity of elderly people in dynamic situations.
Yeah.
But it has a clear affection for the characters. There's no sense of, haha, old people.
Yes.
It's nice seeing a film that puts the relationship between grandparent and grandchild front and center.
Yeah.
Which just, has particular meaning to me. It's light, it's easy. It's a one-time fill, I would say.
Okay, I don't know. I could see myself going back to this.
Oh, really? Okay.
Not in quick succession.
Yeah.
I think it's the type of film you could revisit like every couple of years.
Yeah, I suppose. I don't know. I feel like I got everything I needed out of it.
Oh, yeah. I'm not. It's not going to be... This isn't Shaun of the Dead.
No.
Where you'll find something new every time you watch it. It's just like, this is just an easy, pleasant time.
Yes, but it's not entirely frothy. there is some pathos about aging and regret. And there are little moments of cleverness and an endearing, appropriate climax. So when they're trying to get into the computer and all that kind of, it's like high stakes, low stakes kind of, where it's really, but again, it's that the mileage out of a quite simple thing.
Yeah.
Trying to be done by an older person.
Yeah, a grandson trying to like talk his grandmother through how to like use a computer.
Which I think a lot of us can relate to.
Yeah.
Dad, that's the age we're at now. But yeah, there's a lovely line as well with the grandson speaking to his ex-girlfriend and expressing his guilt and anxiety about Thelma's disappearance.
Yeah.
And they talk about her proclivity for errands. And the ex-girlfriend says, maybe she's just doing something. And that's simple, but it says a lot.
Yes.
I think, it's like, what you're panicking about. She has agency. She has some autonomy. She's just going off to do a thing herself.
Yeah. Even the ex-girlfriend character is just nice.
Yeah, exactly. It's not like, oh, we had a horrible breakup and...
Yeah.
No, it's like they still like each other, really. And I had to avoid using the word charming over and over again when writing those notes, because that's really the fundamental flavour of the film.
Yeah.
It's just nice.
Yeah, it's just a really nice time. And yeah, June Squibb puts in a very nice performance.
Yes. You should see her in Nebraska.
Okay.
Which, we do our own awards, obviously, because we're like that. She won my award that year.
Okay. I'm going to assume it's a different flavour of performance.
It's a crotchety old, not quite battle axe kind of thing, but her husband is just a nuisance and she's always setting him right. Okay. And she's great in it and really funny.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, that's all I got to say really about Thelma.
Yeah, there's not a lot to talk about.
Yeah.
But it is a strong recommendation from me.
Same.
Yeah, absolutely.
For me too.
You will enjoy it, and whether it's a one-time thing or whether it's something that you do find yourself going back to over the years, I think it's a worthwhile experience.
And it's not in either way. It's not life-affirming massively, but unless, even for someone with a calloused heart like myself, you're trying if it doesn't make you smile.
Yeah.
If it doesn't uplift you a little bit. And because it just has a nice view of people. And, we always go on about Gen Z and all that kind of thing. And, the Gen Z in this fits a lot of a lot of what we would criticise about Gen Z. But it's he's all right.
Yeah.
He's fine, And he's pretty distinct from a lot of Gen Zers. I wouldn't want to guess. But, yeah, if it doesn't kind of make you feel a bit happier, then you're trying to be miserable.
I would agree.
Finally, Longlegs.
This is not
a nice happy film. Okay, so I think a film that can be genuinely compared to The Silence of the Lambs.
Outside of male serial killer, female FBI, cat and mouse game.
Well, there's that, obviously. Female FBI agent hunting a serial killer in the 1990s. Though it isn't particularly of that time, I would say. The 90s. If anything, it has a heavy dose of the 70s.
Okay.
So the opening quote is from T-Rex, the song Get It On, which is from 1971. And that song also plays the film out. And there's a couple of other tracks by T-Rex in the film too. There are also flashbacks to Lee's childhood, which would be the 70s or conceivably the early 80s. So that was kind of the dominant vibe I got out of it. Not as a 70s film.
Yeah.
We usually mean something specific when we say, oh, it was a 70s kind of film. Not in that way. But the feeling of it, the kind of aesthetic of it, it didn't scream 90s to me.
Okay.
Though the context of it is, kind of satanic panic and all that sort of thing.
Yeah.
It's a procedural and the plot is important to this film. So I'd be inclined to call this a crime thriller in its DNA with the skin and aroma of a horror film. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, because I think the marketing campaign's quite famous at this point, right?
Right.
Scariest horror film that's ever been anywhere ever.
Yes. Since Silence of the Lambs.
Yeah. This film will scare your face off and all that kind of shit. And I think it's another example of a horror film being undone by its marketing campaign.
I wouldn't go so far as to say undone, but sold short, definitely.
Yeah, because I mean, there's horror inflections in there, and there are horrific moments.
It's
certainly.
A horror film.
Yeah,
I'm not going to say it's not a horror film, but it's principally a crime thriller.
Yeah,
in that the plot matters. It's about detectives uncovering clues, but it has a supernatural dimension to it.
Yeah,
and yes, it's a serial killer, so that overlaps with horror.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, but just if you're going in expecting like a scary. A
balls out horror film. Yeah, no, it's not that.
It's not that.
There are some jump scares. I jumped out of my skin 3 times.
Okay.
So we're saying it's not a horror film, but I will say the film that hasn't happened in a very long time.
Right.
where a film kind of hit me in that way. Twice in the opening scene, and once more that returned to the opening scene later in the film.
Okay.
And that was both encouraging and discouraging. If they'd maintained that rate, it would have been a struggle for me.
Okay.
For my heart to survive the film.
Yeah.
But they didn't. It should be pointed out that we are critics generally of jump scares. But when the film is artful, I think they're easier to forgive.
Yeah.
It's not a never rule. It's only a problem when something relies on them exclusively.
Yeah, well, I think if they're given appropriate context,
yeah,
they can be very effective. The third jump scare in particular, well, I guess both of them really, but certainly that third one, because it does come out of nowhere.
Yeah.
Whereas the first two in that opening scene, you're expecting something.
The first one might be out of nowhere.
Well,
a bit.
You're expecting something to happen, though, aren't you? Whereas in the third scene, she's just reading stuff.
Yeah, yeah,
exactly. So it is out of nowhere.
Well, yeah, the second one is the best in that. Like, I don't know if it's the most effective in making you jump.
Yeah,
but just the kind of the creepiest and the I don't like this factor.
Yes,
of it. But yeah, and also the least exploitative.
Yeah. No, exactly.
Yeah.
But in all three instances, but particularly with the third, the character probably jumped.
Yeah.
Like when she's kind of like, the reason that you get that jump scare the third time around is because she's kind of hit upon some sort of revelation.
Yeah.
And the pieces are all falling into place for her, and it freaks her out.
Yeah.
Makes sense that the film jumps at you and kind of freaks you out in that moment.
Yes. Whereas the first scene, it's only us.
It's only us, but at the same time, there's danger here.
Oh, terrifying situation.
Yeah.
But the jump is only for us.
Yeah. But I think it's a problem when films when the jump is only for the audience. Like, the character isn't even there. Or they're not interacting with the danger.
It's a problem when that's all the film is.
Yeah.
I don't like roller coasters, really. I'll go on one, but I understand why people like those types of horror films. I think one of the things that bothers me, and I suspect us, is, and we've talked about it countless times, people that say they love horror when they just mean they like
and they're talking
jumping.
about that.
Yeah.
This
doesn't rely exclusively on jump scares. Otherwise, there's an unremitting sense of dread. No doubt it's a fraught experience, this film.
Yeah.
But I think I've been somewhat inoculated against grimness and portent by everything else I've seen ever. A lot of these new quality horror films share a lot in common. The same type of lighting, a similar pace, and I'm itching somewhat for some variation in style in quality horror. Because they're all good cinematography, good performances, but there's a sameness now that I like a bit of change.
Okay. How much of this is inspired by the fact that you've fairly recently seen I Saw the TV Glow?
I mean, that's certainly not a conscious thing. Okay. I don't think that plays into it. I mean, I'm thinking of, Hereditary, and they're different, the plot and all that kind of thing, but there is a similarity that binds them all together. And I would like a new type of quality horror to dominate.
Okay.
Where it's quiet and it's psychological and it's families kind of tearing each other apart.
Yeah.
And there's a lot in common. Speaking of style, I saw an interview with Nicolas Cage where he spoke about...
Oh yeah, Nicolas Cage is in this.
Yeah, he's Longlegs. He's the villain. He spoke about the naturalistic acting style of the 1970s being accepted as the only form of quality performance. And I suppose that kind of ties in with what I'm saying about it's the only acceptable type of quality horror. You've got the Terrifier films, which are quite well received, and they're full-out gore fests. Yeah. I don't quite mean that. And he spoke about how horror is the only place right now that's offering opportunities to do something else. And he does do something else, I think we can say.
Yeah.
And I think his performance is really the main thing to discuss. But before we go into that, should we premise this one as well? Have you written a premise for this?
No, you can take this one. Yeah.
Okay, so set in the 90s, female FBI agent called, I think, Lee Harker is her name?
Yeah, something like that.
Or is that's Dracula, isn't it? Or is that actually her name in this as well?
I think it's Lee Harper. Yeah.
Harker.
Oh, Harker.
Yeah. Yeah, Harker's the vampire. Mina Harker is Dracula's bride, isn't she? So Lee Harker, it's probably some allusion to that. Anyway.
Okay.
Yes, and there are a series of grisly killings where the head of the household is killing the family and then himself, and they can't really find a binding cause. And then she kind of puts some things together and realizes they're happening around the date of the daughter's birthday.
Yeah.
I think that's right. Yeah. And then they hunt for the killer, who's played by Nicolas Cage, and things unfurl from there.
Yes.
But it also has a supernatural dimension where it kind of implies that she might have some psychic ability early on, and then the film kind of delves into that as it goes on. Longlegs is creepy as sin. When he's held back, that is. which was smart when they did do that. Something is lost when you do see him, I think. When he starts screaming, so there's a scene where he goes to just like a convenience store and he's talking to this girl behind the counter and she's like, Dad, the creepy guy's back, or whatever word she uses. Yeah. And then it cuts to him driving in his car and alone. And he just starts screeching, Daddy! Mommy! It's all nice and weird and that. But it really sounds like Nicolas Cage.
Yes, it does.
And I've heard him making those sounds before.
Yeah.
And when he starts singing toward the end of the film in that kind of flashback sequence, I just found it funny.
Okay. Unintentionally? Like, do you
No,
think the film...
well, here's the thing, right? Well, I find it more funny than creepy. It's one of the most vivid demonstrations of that fine line that I've seen in a long time. It's a perfect test case, right? Horror comedy, very fine line. The interrogation scene, which is kind of the fulcrum of the film, it vacillates between funny and creepy, and that was okay to me.
Yeah.
The final shot of the film, to me again, had a sense of humour, which demonstrated in my mind that Osgood Perkins, the director, understood that some people might find elements of the film comical.
Yeah.
But I can see that could just be a me thing. But I think you finding it funny was in there if you want.
Yeah.
I didn't feel like I was laughing at the film. I thought the film knew that it was silly.
Okay. I couldn't tell, see, because in the scene that you described, and in a couple of other sequences as well.
The car or the singing?
Both, actually.
Okay, yeah.
Like kind of any scene which ends with Nicolas Cage being intense.
Yeah, right.
They put like a non-diegetic echo onto his voice.
Yeah.
And that carries you... That's kind of like the...
fade out.
The L cut into like the next scene,
yes.
where the audio kind of laps over for a little bit.
Yeah.
And, I mean, that's funny. Echoing audio, reverberating over...
Okay, I didn't find that funny.
I think that is... I mean, I'm just thinking because, like, we've got one clip that we keep referring back to. It's related to a project that we did, so there's no point really describing what it is.
Yeah.
But yeah, it ends with, like, a cut to black and, like, a scream over...
I don't think...
It's funny.
I don't think reverberation is funny. I think it is very contextual. It's funny in that context because of like what the hell does it imply in the thing that we made.
Yeah.
And it can be funny, of course, like to that end where you're suggesting horror or kind of dread in a benign situation.
Yes.
But okay, but is it just, you think it's because of the association with... I
mean, that probably didn't help me.
Yeah.
But in that moment I was like, well, I don't know, because that could be... Yeah, it could be like, oh, it's kind of horrible, but also it could be like I was kind of weird and funny. Okay,
well, I found his performance creepy and fun, and occasionally funny.
Yeah.
And I think that's because of the volume of it. It's kind of, he's going for grand guignol, almost like big. Like you said, he's not doing the naturalistic thing, he's doing something else.
Yeah.
Channeling his mother, it turns out. He channeled his dad to play Nosferatu, or whoever he played in Dracula.
On Renfield.
Renfield, sorry, yeah.
Renfield.
Renfield, and he channeled his mum for Longlegs.
Yeah, it makes you wonder, like, what his home life was like, if that's what his parents were.
Yeah. But yeah, the acting style. The film requires Nicolas Cage to turn in a Nicolas Cage is bonkers performance.
Yeah.
And sometimes it feels like the film fails to control that.
Okay.
And it's not a major problem, but it wouldn't be a problem at all if it wasn't contextualized in a quieter flavour.
Yeah.
Everyone else is buttoned down, doing very naturalistic
Everyone
acting.
else is Mindhunter. Like, it's that kind of performance.
And again, it's a fine line, because Heath Ledger is doing something different than everyone else in The Dark Knight.
Yeah.
But it fits. This doesn't 100% fit, I don't think.
Okay.
But it works a lot of the time. And that's a shame, because a mad Nicolas Cage performance is going to be the big draw for a lot of people.
Yeah.
And a mad Nicolas Cage is a very entertaining thing.
Yes.
It has clearly worked for a lot of people, but the volume and the colour of his performance aside, I think the fact of Nicolas Cage lessens the character's impact.
Okay.
Because Nicolas Cage is a meme now.
Yeah.
Of him being nuts. And I think had it been an obscure actor in the role, it would have carried a lot more power for me.
I mean, I know what you mean. Yeah. Because was Cameron Britton like a known personality before Mindhunter?
No, that was his breakout role.
That was his breakout, yeah. Well, he probably meant more. I mean, he seems to have captured Ed Kemper so well. Yeah.
But exactly, I don't know who that guy is.
Yeah.
He could be anything.
Yeah, he could actually be Ed Kemper for all I know.
Yeah. It's that kind of weird, etheria, like with Don't Hug Me, I'm Scared. Its context adds to its impact.
Yes.
Where, like, if you're just channel hopping.
Yeah.
And you find the show. Similarly, like, well, I know that's Nicolas Cage.
Yeah.
And they do obscure his features to some
Well, that's what I was
extent.
going to say, because like for half of the film, or half the film he's in, because he's not in it like a whole lot.
Yeah.
Yeah, the camera, I think you said before, the film is made around him.
Yeah.
They film around him,
Yeah.
and that is effective. When you
Very
just,
effective.
When you can just see like his torso and his mouth.
Yes.
Or when he's speaking to the girl at the counter, but he's covering his face with his hands.
Yeah.
So you're not getting a full...
In that kind of Pan's Labyrinth way.
You're not really getting a full sense of what this person is.
No.
But when you do see him, he doesn't look like Nicolas Cage. Like,
not at first glance, but then it's clearly Nicolas Cage.
I know what you mean. Like the performance kind of... It ends up...
Overpowering the makeup.
You end up, like correcting the image of the character.
They've kind of bordered him up a little bit, but which there was a film a few years ago called Border, where it was like people that like may or may not have been trolls.
Yeah.
Like had troll DNA or descendants of trolls.
Yeah.
And they kind of done a similar thing to him.
Yeah, his face is like white to the point where it looks like it's been painted white.
Proper albino.
Albino, like straggly white blonde hair.
Yes.
All white clothing.
Yeah.
And I don't know if he's got prosthetics as well, but his face looked
No,
different.
he does. Yeah, there's something they've done to like the bridge of his nose and like his forehead.
Yeah.
That's the border thing I'm talking about.
Right, okay.
It's kind of, and like the eyebrows are kind of gone and I don't say he's not bad at all.
No.
And he has his moments and it's a solid turn. But yeah, the character's at his best when the film shoots around him.
Yeah.
Like I was genuinely creeped out. I think the shot of him that you just mentioned in that opening scene, where it's his torso with his head outside the frame, but his mouth in shot, will stick with me.
Okay.
I think that's the image of the film. Longlegs is a nightmare avatar with a distinct, memorable look. As for modern horror, I think Longlegs as a character probably has the best chance of cultural permeation.
Okay.
Not to the level of iconic, because the world doesn't produce icons anymore, but most of the quality modern horrors, they aren't built around villains, so to speak. If anything, the lead performances tend to be the standouts.
Yeah.
I'm talking again of Ari Aster kind of things and The Witch and that. It's more mainstream, but you've got Bill Skarsgård's Pennywise. Otherwise, the closest that springs to mind is the Babadook. But even then, I can't really picture the Babadook.
Yeah.
It follows, again, great concept for a villain.
Yeah, but that villain...
By definition, they change.
Yeah, there's no identity to that villain. Yeah. Hereditary, I don't even know what the villain's supposed to be in Hereditary.
It's kind of the devil, really, and it's this overhanging influence. But Anne Dowd is kind of a villain, and then Toni Collette becomes possessed by this thing.
Right.
She is the memorable villain of Hereditary.
Yeah.
But yeah, exactly. There's no villain in that sense.
Yeah. Saint Maud as well. That's another one, isn't it?
Saint Maud, again, it's about the lead character. A lot of quality horrors are about the lead character.
Yeah.
Outside of Cage's performance, Micah Monroe was fine, just very muted, like you said, in that kind of Mindhunter way.
Oh, Mr. Melancholy, again, to bring it back to I Saw the TV Glow. I don't know how many people...
I mean, will
see that.
He's not really... He is the villain, but it's not
but just in terms of like an icon.
Sure, but
that's a pretty, like...
It's a memorable image.
Yeah.
But it's very fleeting.
Yes.
And the film is not based around him. It's based around the relationship between the two main characters, right?
Yeah, okay.
Whereas,
kind of fall into what
like Longlegs, it's called Longlegs. It's about him. You know?
Yeah.
I like Blair Underwood. I liked him in this, her boss. Keenan Shipka, the survivor girl in the home.
Yeah.
She has to deliver that strange Bible meets redneck talk.
Oh, yeah.
And she doesn't quite sell it, I don't think.
Okay.
Cage does, more where it's like, he was everywheres, and that kind of weird, what is that kind of speech. Otherwise, it's solid stuff that doesn't provoke much comment from me. One, I'll let you decide if it's a nitpick. In the climactic scene, Lee knows that Blair Underwood is going to kill his wife. I know it's meant to be a moody set piece, because her mother is there as well.
Yeah. As
her mother delivers a monologue about hell while the couple goes off to the kitchen. But wouldn't she try and stop him at that point? They literally, he jokes about it. They go out to the kitchen, she's like, oh, bring the cake back, or he's like, you're not coming back.
Oh, yeah.
I feel like, again, I know it's meant to be all moody and like the mother's, no, this is happening. But I feel like at that point, wouldn't she just like run off to the kitchen?
I know what you're saying, because I did think that, but
yeah.
I guess like the power of the atmosphere of that scene.
But it should never break the logic of the film, which is kind of what it does.
Yeah, I don't know.
Because you've got you as well, there's like a psychic thing happening, and like, is she being pulled in by the power of whatever this thing is?
That's the thing. I trust the film enough.
Yeah.
That you could explain why she doesn't.
That's fair. This is not like, and that's why it might be a nitpick. I don't know, because it's a film that I like and a film I trust. Incidentally, the director is the son of Anthony Perkins, who played Norman Bates in the original Psycho.
Oh, right, okay.
Who was a closeted gay man who nevertheless remained married to his wife the entirety of his life. And his mother died in the first plane on 9/11.
Okay.
So he has a very bizarre history, does Osgood Perkins.
As Red Letter Media like to continuously point out, was in Quigley with...
yes.
What's his face?
I don't know.
Gary Busey.
Gary Busey, that's it.
Yeah.
But I'm sure he has a finely calibrated sense of horror. I mean, like, his father being a horror icon, his mother perishing in 9/11.
Yeah, no, he's...
Two different types of horror.
Quite a strange pedigree. That guy's
absolutely.
Coming from.
And yeah, I trust the film as well, but I did feel it was an odd, if you think about it, because you're seized by the atmosphere.
Yeah.
Like, if you think about it, wouldn't she try and stop that? But anyway. Is it the scariest film of the year? So far, yes. But frankly, it doesn't have much competition.
No.
It's not one of the scariest films ever. That is pure marketing.
Yeah.
But it is a recommendation.
It is a recommendation. However, I think this is probably a one and done.
Oh, that's interesting, because I think I would disagree with that.
Okay.
Not that you have to go back, but I would be willing to go back. And because of the Cage performance. So I told my dad about the film, and I was playing him the scenes with Cage. So maybe not the film, to be fair. Maybe just the Cage scenes. But it's like, I want to show someone that performance.
Yeah,
it's very entertaining.
Yeah, that's fine. But yeah, as a film, as a unit... Yeah, other than Nicolas Cage, I don't really know what I need to go back for. Yeah,
no, to be fair, I probably won't sit down and watch Longlegs again as a film.
Yeah.
But I know I will rewatch the Cage scenes, and the beginning, probably. Because I think it's a very
strong beginning.
A very effective opening, creepy scene.
Yeah.
That just, the way it makes you jump is like, I mean, we've already spoiled the film, so... Yeah, it's kind of, this little girl goes out, and there's like a car parked near her house that kind of shouldn't be there.
Yeah.
And there are these two wide shots of the landscape, and then it just suddenly cuts to a close-up of someone's mouth in the shivering cold next to her.
Yeah.
And it freaks you the fuck out.
Yeah.
And then he's talking to this girl, and then he kind of suddenly drops into frame, but it kind of cuts off before you get a good sense of him. And it's very effective, and it's very, very creepy. And like I said, I jumped out my skin.
Yes.
But I mean, I suppose I also have to weigh how much of that was because... I was told this was the scariest film of the year going in.
Yeah.
And like that got me, so I was like, oh god, what next? But yeah, it didn't really get me after that, just that one time. Yes, one and done, but the Cage performance is very entertaining. And I think on the level of it's creepy, but also you can laugh at it.
Yeah.
So like I showed my dad the interrogation scene, and he says, a lot of his nonsense kind of devil talk where he's saying, to do the dirty work that gets dirty the more it cleans, like a mop or a rag. And it's like, you're trying to freak someone out if you speak like that.
Yeah.
And I think, discomfort can make people laugh. And there are moments of extreme discomfort in the film. But I would recommend it.
Yeah, I'd recommend it as well. Just like, if you are aware of the marketing campaign prior to watching this, it might be worth recalibrating your expectations a little bit.
It's not the scariest film evs.
No.
It is not that.
But there's some effective stuff in it.
There is. And if you like horror, proper horror, you will enjoy it, I think.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
In terms of rewatchability and like how what its lifespan is after you've seen it, I think the mileage will vary. For me, I don't think that there's much there. For you, there seems to be more.
Yeah. Well, I think it's one of the better horror films of the last few years.
Yeah, I don't disagree.
Yeah. But in terms of rewatchability, if you're a horror fan, yes. If you're a hardcore horror fan, you probably will rewatch it.
Yeah.
As a film, just the Cage stuff.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. And that's it, I think.
I believe so.
Okay. Thanks for staying, coming back, starting. I don't know what it is. But whatever the case, we will maybe see you next time.
Maybe.
Bye.
Bye-bye.